guys, how's it going? Killa Macro here, and today in this video I'm going to be going over the 7.2.5 Enhancement Shaman. Now luckily Blizzard has actually made a lot of changes addressing the issues that Enhancement Shamans has faced in the past, which is just inconsistent damage. Now moving forward in the video I'm going to be going over talent choices just to ensure that you guys are doing the most damage possible, rotation, and also going to be giving you guys a burst macro so you guys just hit one button and completely wipe out teams like I've demonstrated in my other videos. So let's get into it. So we're going to start things off with the talent tree. Now a lot of you guys have been asking me like which talents are the best talents and what should I always run. Unfortunately I actually can't give you guys that. Blizzard has done a really great job at reinvigorating this talent tree, so it's actually really fun, and they're going to be two different talent spec variations I think you guys should use depending on situations. So first I'm just going to go through all the talents, and then I'm going to tell you the situations in which talent choice A is going to shine and then talent choice B will shine. Alright, so first off we have Windsong, Hot Hand, and Landslide. They nerfed Windsong slightly by 5%, so it's only 30% attack speed now. Hot Hand for the most part has been very dominant because of our final golden trait. I knew Blizzard wasn't going to let this stand because they don't really like it when everyone's just picking one talent. Feral Lunge. But yeah, so pretty much what Lashing Flames would do is make it so once you had a Flame Tongue on the target, it would make you build up stacks on them, making it so your next Lava Lash would do up to 100% additional damage. But they nerfed the proc chance of Hot Hand, so now I think Landslide is actually going to be really powerful, especially with Concordance, because once you get that Concordance proc, getting an additional 8% agility from Landslide is extremely powerful. So for the most part, we're going to want to just stay in Landslide. Now moving on to the next tier, Feral Lunge. Feral Lunge is literally the only thing that exists on this tier. Everything else is just kind of shit, unfortunately. Then going on to the next tier, we have Earth Grab Totem, Lightning Surge Totem, and Voodoo Totem. Voodoo Totem will be really good if you're going up against like Caster Cleaves and they have Hex Dispels, meaning two people on their team can actually dispel Hex, so you won't ever really be able to get a full Hex. You can use the Voodoo Totem as a great way just to gain an additional spell interrupt. So let's say it's yeah, you can just interrupt people, man. You can just interrupt with it. Brain fart for a second. Now the next talent we have Earth Grab Totem. Earth Grab Totem just pretty much roots enemies. This is really great, especially if you're going up against Rogue, Mage, because they like to start off invis. You can see them and get an idea of like where they're going, and then you can just drop that Earth Grab Totem and it will root them and take them both out of stealth. So that's a great way just to cancel out the opener from RMP and comp similar to that. Now Lightning Surge Totem is great if no one else on your team has like a controlled stun. That way there's not too many stun DRs. So that's pretty much gives you guys an idea, but for the most part I like to run with Earth Grab Totem because it does also provide that additional peel for your healer going up against melee comps, which are pretty prevalent now. Then going on to the next tier, does not exist, Ancestral Swiftness and Hailstorm. I'm pretty much always going to be in Ancestral Swiftness. I'll actually come back and answer why I don't like to spec in Hailstorm too much. Now moving on to the next tier, we have Overcharge, does not exist, and Tempest. They have done a great job at just reworking Tempest. Now it's actually really powerful. I really do like it. The only time I'll actually spec into it is when I know I'm going to have like pretty decent uptime on the target, because we're shamans, we get kited, you know, we have one gap closer on a 30-second CD. So Tempest is great if you're going up against like another melee cleave. It's just excellent pressure. But for the most part, if I'm being kited, I'm going to like to just stay in Overcharge, all right? Because that is extremely powerful. I've gotten up to like 1.8 to 2 million crits with it. So it's a very powerful spell. Moving on to the next tier, we have Fury of Air, Crashing Storms, and Sundering. I've always said that wrong, Sundering. We have Sundering. Sundering is really powerful, guys. Definitely do recommend you all spec into it because it does provide that additional interrupt, all right? So if your wind shear is on CD, you have no way of stopping the cast, you have Sundering. It's going to stun that target for 2 seconds, and you can also line it up with other stuns. So let's say you're running with a warrior. He uses his Stormbolt right after the Stormbolt, or right before the Stormbolt ends, you can use Sundering, and that's going to be an additional 2-second stun. So that target has been stunned for like 6 seconds. So it's actually really powerful. Then going on to the next tier, I'm going to actually be switching between Earthen Spike and Ascendance, all right? Now this is where I'm going to actually start elaborating a little bit on why I don't like to spec into Hailstorm and Hot Hand, because of these two challenge choices right here. So first, let's say I'm spec'ing Earthen Spike, right? Now, if you read the tooltip on Earthen Spike, it says it increases physical and nature damage. Physical and nature damage, guys. You know what that means? It does not increase frost damage from Hailstorm. So if you spec in Earthen Spike and then you spec in the Hailstorm, you're nerfing your character, because it doesn't benefit, your character doesn't benefit at all from, Hailstorm doesn't benefit at all from Earthen Spike, right? So you're going to want to stay in Ancestral Swiftness. That way, the haste is going to lower the CD on your Storm Strike, and because you're attacking faster, seeing how we can proc Stormbringer off our main hand and offhand weapon, it's also going to greatly increase the chance of you getting more Stormbringer procs. So it's just going to be more efficient for you guys to spec in Ancestral Swiftness, because it's going to, you're going to do more damage with it, you know? So that, and let's also address Hot Hand, because again, Hot Hand, what does Lava Lash do? Lava Lash does fire damage, right? Fire is not nature. I know, it makes no sense. Fire happens in nature, but it's not nature damage. Nature damage is going to be like earth, would be like earth shock, lightning bolt, things like that, you know, and wind-based attacks. So it doesn't benefit at all from it, unfortunately. So that's also why I like to stay in Landslide, all right? So for the first spec variation, if you want to have more consistent pressure and more consistent burst opportunities, we're going to want to go in Landslide, Pharaoh Lunge, Earth Grab Totem, or Lightning Surge Totem, depending on what comp you're running. You're always going to want to stay in Ancestral Swiftness. You're always going to want to be, you're going to switch between Overcharge and Tempest. If you know you're going to have like high uptime on the target, go Tempest. If you know you're going to be kited a lot, then go Overcharge. Always go Shuddering, just because of that additional interrupt. I think it's really powerful, and that is the Earthen Spike build for more consistent pressure. Now, if you just want to go balls to the walls, maximum damage, just one-shot teams, and like every 3 minutes, this spec will give you the most burst. I think it's really fun if you're doing like 2v2 and you're like running double DPS and things like that. But again, this is not a spec I recommend if you know you're gonna get kited, especially at the higher rated 3 versus 3 matches where teams will just CC you and like lock you down, you know? So we're gonna go in Ascendance, right? Then Tempest. And the reason you're using Tempest as opposed to Overcharge is because what I mentioned earlier, our mastery can proc off our main hand and offhand weapons, right? So if you cast a spell, if you cast your lightning bolt, that, even though it's just like one global, you're not using your melee attacks, right? So you're gimping the likelihood of you getting a Stormbringer proc, which will greatly reduce the damage that you do once you're in Ascendance, right? And Tempest, again, is just really powerful. You're going to be God mode. What's better than God mode? God mode when you crit. So go Tempest with Ascendance, all right? Then we're also going to switch off and go into Windsong. Now, the reason you're going to use Windsong, again, because it's going to be 30% additional attack speed. That 30% additional attack speed is just going to increase the likelihood of you getting more procs, and you just want to get as many procs as possible while you're in Ascendance. That way, you can just become a freaking ranged god of death. Literally, just you out DPS hunters, you out DPS everything if you're in this spec. And of course, you're not going to want to go Hot Hand, because I think it makes no sense, because Hot Hand has a range of Lava Lash is melee range, so why would you want to spec in melee range ability when you're God Ascendance hitting everyone from 30 yards away? It doesn't make sense, right? So if this build, you can either go Windsong, or you can always go Landslide, but you just do way more damage if you go Windsong. So that's going to be the 2 variations. This is burst, and the one with Earthen Spike is just more consistent damage. Now let's actually go into the honor talents. So I'm going to go through the honor talents really quickly. All right, guys, we have Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation, and Relentless. Now, if you're not Orc, you can switch in between Adaptation and Gladiator's Medallion. If you are an Orc, I definitely recommend you always run Relentless, because, you know, most of the CCN Legions actually stuns. You specking in Relentless, and that stacking with your Orc racial is going to pretty much just make you be immune to stuns. Not really, but it's greatly going to reduce the duration of stuns on you, making you just have a lot more uptime on kill targets. Then we have hardiness, reinforced armor, and sparring. You're specking in reinforced armor if you're going up against casters or melees that do a lot of magic damage. Things like red pally, frost DKs, and unholy DKs. Now you'll spec in sparring if you're going up against true melee DPS. So things like Windwalker, monks, feral druids, and warriors. True melee comps, you know? And then we have Sky Fury Totem, Counter Strike Totem, and Wind Fury Totem. Now they actually did make some changes to Wind Fury Totem because towards the end of 7.1.5 and for the beginning of 7.2, Wind Fury Totem actually didn't affect the Enhancement Shaman, but they have actually gone back and reverted those changes, but the tooltip is still like says, oh, it only affects allies, but it actually does affect the Enhancement Shaman. So definitely do recommend running Wind Fury Totem if you're running with a teammate that is a melee. So Turbo and anything else that's a melee that you can run with. Now Counter-Strike Totem, I think with Counter-Strike Totem is actually really powerful, but it's going to be, the power of this totem is going to be determined against the skill of the player that you're versing. So if you're in like higher rated 3 versus 3 matches, I don't really recommend you use Counter-Strike Totem because for the most part they will notice it and they will kill it before it really has any true value. Now if you're doing like BGs and things like that, definitely just recommend you use Counter-Strike Totem. People will kill themselves like trying to kill you. Then we have Sky Fury Totem. Now Sky Fury Totem is really powerful if you're going up against like or if you're paired with a caster, and it also does increase the damage of your lightning bolt if you're spec'd in wow, brain fart. If you're spec'd in overcharge, if you're spec'd in overcharge, the Sky Fury Totem will greatly increase the damage of your lightning bolt. And this can also be used to help increase the healing output of your healer, making your comp just be able to survive a lot more pressure. Now we have Purifying Waters. They actually nerfed this. It was 5%, but they nerfed it down to 3% whenever you get Dispelled or Purge. Then we have Spectral Recovery, which makes it so when you're in Ghost Wolf form, you get healed for 3% of your health every 2 seconds, and it does increase your movement speed by an additional 10%. And then we also have Aether Form. Now, Aether Form, for the most part, I'm going to spec in this if I'm going up against like melee cleaves. Definitely you need this because we are extremely squishy. So definitely do recommend you run Aether Form. That way you just have a 45-second wall. And keep in mind, it also does lower the CD on the healing aspect of Astral Shift as well. So what I mean by that is, let's say if you're using typical Astral Shift, the heal after you pop your wall, 40% wall, you get healed for 40% of your health the following 15 seconds, right? Now, if you're spec'ing Aether Form, you get healed for 40% of your health after you pop it, and it's only on a 45-second CD. So pretty much every 45 seconds, you can heal yourself for 40% of your health. And you can't like shift in and shift out of this. I always use this if I'm going up against like a melee in 2 versus 2 matches. So especially monks. If you're going up against a Windwalker monk, spec in Aether Form, and you can out heal them. Like it's insane. It's really powerful. But now in most frees though, I'm actually going to want to stay with Purifying Waters because this can keeps me offensive while healing myself, as opposed to Spectral Recovery, which is like, oh my god, abandon all hope, just go into wolf form and run around a pillar and hope they can't kill me. So with Purifying Waters, it definitely does keep me more offensive. So I recommend running Purifying Waters if you're going up against casters and things like that. Now Aether Form if you're going up against true melee teams. Similar rule as when using sparring. Then we have Ride the Lightning, Static Cling, and Fork Lightning. Now Ride the Lightning is actually really good. I, for the most part, will use it. The only time Ride the Lightning gives me any issues is if I'm running with a hunter and he like traps a target. Naturally I'm going to be like using my Chain Lightning might actually break the trap, and that's when I might like opt to switch into Static Cling. That way I can do 15% additional damage to a target, and it does also increase my movement speed by 15%, giving me a lot more mobility and just giving me more uptime on the target. Now Fork Lightning, I will typically use this in like 2 versus 2 matches because there are only 2 targets, and let's say it's like a mage rogue team. Pretty much every time I use my Storm Strike, it's always going to be hitting the mage, even though I'm on the rogue and the mage is like 30 yards away from me, you know? So that's a good example of when you would use Forked Lightning. Now here we only have this ability. They actually nerfed our Bloodlust in PvP situations to 20% haste as opposed to 30%, but it is still the strongest talent on this tier by far, guys. Yeah, this is it. Don't even read these. Don't even look at these. This is it. All right, now we're actually going to go into discussing rotations. So going into the enhancement shaman rotation, I'm going to give you guys a basic overview of everything. Pretty much what you're going to want to do is maintain your flame tongue buff. All right, now that flame tongue buff is going to pretty much be a way that you do passive damage, passive fire damage. So you're always going to want to keep that ability up. All right, then from there you're going to always want to use crash lightning. Now a lot of enhancement shamans don't use crash lightning in single target DPS situations, but it actually really does increase the damage you do to single target DPS. Enhancement shamans are one of the few classes that actually their AoE and their single target damage rotation is pretty much exactly the same thing. Now, just to give you guys further evidence as to why you want to use crash lightning on CD is because every time you use crash lightning, it's going to increase the damage of your next storm strike by 8%. Now, the more targets that stand in the area of your crash lightning or affected by crash lightning, it's going to increase it, and it just keeps stacking up. Now, the Blizzard had actually nerfed this ability, Gathering Storms, recently because it used to actually be affected by pets. So if you would go up against targets like Unholy DKs when they summoned all their pets, you could get to a point where your crash lightning would hit like 8 targets, and then that would just really give you a super powerful storm strike. But now I'm actually going to go into this demonstrating the enhancement shaman rotation. All right, guys, so all we're going to do, receive a target dummy, we're going to use rock biter, right? Rock biter, and then after rock biter you're going to want to use flame tongue. Now flame tongue is what increases your damage. Frostbrand weapon, you only use Frostbrand. That's going to be more of utility if you want to slow the target. But if the target is already slowed or you have a teammate that's slowing the target, you're running with like a warrior, something that has a slow consistently on the target, you don't really have to prioritize using Frostbrand weapon as much. All right, so boom, we use flame tongue. Then after flame tongue, that's when you're going to want to use crash lightning. All right, and then crash lightning. From there you're going to storm strike, and then you're going to want to keep using your rock biter just to maintain your maelstrom, and use crash lightning on CD, and then just keep throwing storm strikes. Now once you have, I'd say, above 50 maelstrom or so, that's when you want to start using lava lashes. Now I don't really like to go too low or be too maelstrom starved, especially in PvP situations, because you definitely do want to have the option to actually have those instant heals just to keep yourself topped off. Now, when you're actually bursting, that's when you don't really have to worry too much about Maelstrom, just because you're going to have so many sources generating Maelstrom, with Doom Winds being up, Ghost Wolves being up. You're not really going to have to worry about too much about being Maelstrom starved. Now, I'm actually running the spec Earthen Spike right now. So with Earthen Spike, all you're going to want to do is you go to the target, boom. You want to use Earthen Spike on abilities that all benefit from Earthen Spike, all right? So when Earthen Spike is up, you should hate having to use Lava Lash, because Lava Lash does not benefit from Earthen Spike at all. So you're going to want, the most perfect ideal situation for you to Earthen Spike a target is going to be when you get a proc, of course, because that way Storm Strike benefits from the Earthen Spike, and it's just nothing but damage, right? So you get your rock biter up, and then once you get rock biter, your maelstrom from rock biter, you're going to want to use flame tongue. Then after you use flame tongue, you're going to just use Earthen Spike, crash lightning, and then the storm strike. And now all these storm strikes are benefiting from my Earthen Spike, and they're all doing an additional 20% damage. Crash lightning, just like so. All right, guys, so just a quick review, we're going to want to go up to the target, use your rock biter. From rock biter, then go into flame tongue, then from flame tongue go into crash lightning. Then after crash lightning, that's when you go into your next storm strike, and then you can just weave in your rock biters, and you want to use your crash lightning on CD. Now the only time you're going to want to use lava lash is when you have above like 40 or 50 maelstrom, because you always do want to have that option to be able to get an instant heal on yourself. What you don't want happening is being like maelstrom starved, and then you go to like heal and you're like, oh god, desperate. that's pretty much that. All right, guys, I hope that helps you guys out. As promised, this is a burst macro you guys are going to be using to burst. Now, I'm actually going to leave the full burst macro down in the description below, so definitely check that out. Just copy and insert that into your gameplay so you guys can pwn everyone. All this macro pretty much does is it's going to use your Bloodlust, it's going to use your Ascendance if you're spec'd in it, Windsong if you're spec'd in it, Doom Winds, and if you're using a Saltwater Potion, it's going to proc your Saltwater Potion, and if you're Orc, it's also going to activate your Orc Racial. So everything will be activated all at once because they aren't all on the GCD, all right? So everything here will be used all at once. It's pretty freaking crazy. So just actually demonstrate a good time for you to burst, and I'm going to demonstrate a good time for you to burst and a bad time for you to burst. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, because of our actual artifact trait called Wind Strikes, whenever we do get a Stormbringer, it also increases our attack speed by an additional 12% for 6 seconds, all right? So the best time for you to burst is going to be when you actually get a Stormbringer proc, because that's is going to stack again with, let's pull it up, it's going to stack with your Windsong, which increases your attack speed by 30%, and it's just going to be crazy damage, all right? And it also increases the likelihood of you getting additional procs off of that, and it makes it pretty much impossible for you almost impossible for you not to get additional procs while you're using Ascendance. That's why I recommended you guys use Windsong in conjunction with Ascendance, all right? So I'm actually going to demonstrate it. Now, I, of course, go up to the target, I use my Rock Biter, I get my Flame Tongue on the target, and then after that, I want to use the perfect time to burst, and I pop Ascendance, and I just spam, see? I just keep getting procs because the chance of me not getting a proc is pretty freaking low. And the goal is you want to just be spamming Storm Strikes the entire duration of your Ascendance. And as you see, I had nothing but procs. So that's how you're going to want to burst with that spec variation. And now let's actually switch off into the other spec variation. Give me a moment to get out of combat. So now I'm going to show you guys how to burst using the Earthen Spike talent spec variation, all right? So all you're going to do is get Rock Biter up, and then after that, you're going to want to use Flame Tongue, and after that, Crash Lightning, and then you're going to want to use Earthen Spike, and then you can activate the burst macro, and you're just going to spam as many Storm Strikes as possible into the target. Keep in mind, you want to prioritize using Storm Strikes and even Rock Biter and Crash Lightning. One ability that you don't really want to use too much while doing this is going to be Lava Lash. The reason being because Lava Lash doesn't actually benefit at all from the Earthen Spike, all right? So Earthen Spike and spam Storm Strike, and all of these Storm Strikes are benefiting from the Earthen Spike, all right? And Crash Lightning, and of course always maintain the Flame Tongue buff on the target, and you're just pretty much weaving in Storm Strikes and Crash Lightning on CD as always. Then when Earthen Spike goes down, that's when you want to get out some Lava Lashes. I hope that video was extremely helpful for you guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We are quickly growing, man. Killa Nation, you already know. But let's see, we quickly went for 3K subs. Now we're approaching like 4K subs already, and like we just hit 3K, guys. So thank you so much for the continual support of all of you guys, and yeah, let's just keep growing, man. Whew, flex all day.